Welcome! I'm Halcyon, this is Hug Nation. This topic came up a few times in media that I've been consuming, listening to Radio Lab and This American Life. There were a couple stories that came up about the rights of the body. There was one story about pregnancy surrogates and another story about kidney donors. And the stories were about all the crazy processes and the ins and outs and all the organizing and the cross-country issues that come up. But I started thinking more and more about just the morality of it. Now, to explain a little bit more, so surrogate pregnancy is when a couple cannot biologically have their own children, so they pay a woman to take a child to term. So in the case of this one story, it was a gay couple, and there are agencies that will procure an egg for you. You give them your sperm, they fertilize the egg, and then they find a woman to carry the child or the embryo and hopefully to term. And the eggs, if you want a white baby, come from Eastern Europe, and the uteruses generally come from third world countries. And the cost is different depending on what country that you go to. The story that they covered in Radiolab was an Indian surrogate woman who was then moved to Pakistan because it's illegal in India. It was legal in Pakistan, and the men couple were Israelis. So, woo, crazy stuff. And now it's illegal in Pakistan, and actually being a surrogate is illegal in many countries. It is still legal in the U.S. It's also very expensive in the U.S., which is one reason why I am looking into donating my uterus. Not donating, but, hiring it out. My doctor and I are in a little bit of a tiff, him saying I don't have the means, and me saying I can do anything I put my mind to. So I'll let you know how that turns out. And then the story about kidney donors was that kidney donation is legal, but it is illegal to pay someone. In fact, there's so much fear about there being organ trading and organ, the idea of a financial reward to selling and trafficking organs, that they've actually, you can't even pay someone for their trouble, really. And there's a huge waiting list for kidneys. They're saying that it's, I think, up to 5 years is the waiting time. No, is that what they said? I was thinking about that. They said there's, 100,000 people waiting for kidneys, 5-year waiting. Most people waiting for a kidney will die. And that's true all around the world, except in Iran. And that's because in Iran, it's legal to sell your kidney. And so there is a government kind of dictated set price, and then you negotiate, buyer and seller, and they figure out what a fair price would be, and you can haggle. And the West sends me like that's barbaric, that's horrible. And so the story on, I think it was This American Life, they actually went and talked to people in Iran, and nobody seemed to think they were being exploited. In fact, there were people that were saying, this is my one chance. Like, if they don't let me do this, I'm going to have to go to a life of crime. I might have to kill someone to feed myself and my family. This is like the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. They also mentioned that the kidneys, if you lose one kidney, your remaining kidney will grow up to 50% larger, and it's, all things considered, a fairly safe surgery, as far as open body cavity surgeries go. Okay, so those are the two stories that I saw, and then it made me think about all the aspects of body politics that we have laws about, whether that is abortion, whether that is, helmet laws, whether that is drug laws, prostitution, suicide. Like that, we have these all of these aspects of body politics, body rights that the government legislates. And it seems to me, or my opinion, is that the government's job is not to protect us from ourselves. The government's job is to make sure that we are able to make informed decisions and we have the freedom to make those decisions. Now, when our decisions impact the whole, then the government is able to push back and say, you don't have a right to, drive your car without the lights on while you're drunk because it has impact on the rest of us. You don't have the right to ride without a helmet because we've had so many head injuries that there is a impact on our healthcare system and on the expenses that's taxing the system as a whole. So we have to legislate that. Not because we care if you're a vegetable. Your decision will impact all of us. And that's the libertarian way that I think that we should be really pursuing. I don't want, and I don't trust the government to make those decisions. I mean, clearly they are not trustworthy if we have things like tobacco is legal, alcohol is legal, and far less harmful things are not. We have pharmaceuticals that, because of mistakes or abuse, kill people all the time. I just read someplace that, I think I think the Western medical system is like the third largest killer of, how do they phrase that? Anyway, the point is a lot of people die simply because of following the rules in Western medicine. So we don't have this, if we're going to be protecting ourselves from ourselves, we have a very skewed and biased line that we've drawn in the sand. And I think that it's very influenced by finance. If there's money to be made, then the government's going to think twice about legislating against it. Actually, I take that back. The government doesn't care. The government, however, does listen to those that contribute to campaigns and those that have infiltrated into our currently corrupt monetary system. Currently corrupt electoral and faux representative system. I understand why we have laws, or at least have guidance about suicide, for example. I believe in the right to die, but I also think that, sure, we want to make some sort of provision so that everyone that gets depressed can't just go to the liquor store and get a euthanasia pill. That would be a dangerous thing to do, to not put some checks, like, okay, you have to get a doctor's note saying, yes, I'm not depressed, I no longer think my quality of life is worth it, so I'm done. But to force people down a certain path of morality is the opposite of freedom. And who's to say that, like if giving up a kidney and taking that risk could make the difference between being in debt, living month to month, barely scraping by for the rest of my life, versus getting $100,000 to invest in myself, would that be worth taking a chance? I mean, are there consequences? There could be major consequences. There could be minor consequences. There could be minimal consequences. But there are crazy things that you can do, really dangerous things you can do that the government doesn't protect you from. You can work in a mine. You can work construction. You can join the military and go to war. If I wanted to make $5,000 this weekend, I could be the recipient of a gangbang porno movie, and that would be legal. Now, I couldn't go be a high-paid escort. That would be illegal. See? Let us make informed decisions. And then again, about informed decisions, we don't label GMO food, which is the entirely opposite. We don't even, not even allowed to make an informed decision. We don't have the information. So the government should help us and put things in place so that we know the risk. Like, whoa, before you donate a kidney, you know you've got two, right? But this is the worst case scenario, and you should know that you're taking on a huge risk. I mean, they should do the same thing, if you try to join the military. Whoa, you know that we could send you to a foreign country into a war that no one's going to support, and you could give your life and come back and have massive emotional trauma, and the suicide rate, your chance of suicide will go up dramatically. You know that, right? That's okay. Cool. Your choice. You want to make the decision, and we appreciate your service. Thank you very much. In the same way that if you gave away a kidney, thank you for your service. You are saving someone's life. Imagine if someone was on the edge of suicide. Imagine if we had something in place that, hey, before you kill yourself, before you jump off a bridge, before you take a bunch of these pills, entertain this thought. If you want to give away a kidney, you could save this teenager's life, get $100,000, and maybe totally transform your perspective of who you are in the world. You will have saved someone's life and potentially be absolved of a financial burden that you never thought you could get out of. It's almost immoral to not let somebody have that choice. I bet the suicide rate would change, and we would save the lives of people who never get a donation. That's it. I'm donating both my kidneys. First one to email me and says, please can I have your kidney? Even if both your kidneys are working, they're yours. Done. I feel great about myself, even just considering it. Okay. So I'm going to continue to urge the government to stop the paternalistic tone of deciding what's best for us. And that goes for drug use, our use of the body, our use of our uterus. Okay, I don't really have a uterus. The use of one's uterus, the use of our mind, the use of our physical abilities, whether that be our strength or our intellect or our reproductive organs. That is our domain. And as long as we're not tricked, and as long as we know what we're getting into, the whole point of freedom is that we can make those choices. On behalf of Grandpa Caleb and all the Love Warriors, happy Hug Nation. Thank you. I love you. I love you and your kidneys.